Hi, my name is Ethan Lewis, and today I'll be continuing with Chapter 17, which is Law and Business Associations Part 2. At the beginning of this chapter, describe what corporation is. And this is a legal entity created by state law which raises capital via the issues of stocks to its investors. A stock is a capital that a corporation raises through the sales of shares that entitles its shareholders to certain rights of ownership. Next, the chapter goes on with the creation of corporations. And the corporations are governed by the state law, and each state has a general incorporation statute that stipulates the articles of incorporation to be used. The articles and fees are filed with Secretary of State. Upon issuance of the certificate of incorporation, the first boarding is held where the board of directors is elected, the bylaws are intact, and lastly, the corporate stock is issued. Activities for creating incorporation include incorporation, which is a selection of state of incorporation, secure a corporate name, and prepare articles of incorporation, corporate powers, and then lastly, piercing the corporate veil. Next, the chapter goes on with debt financing. And the types of debt instruments include notes, which is short-term loans, bonds, which are long-term loans, secured by a line or mortgage or corporate assets. Excuse me. And then, which goes along with unsecured and secured bonds, income and participating bonds, convertible bonds, callable bonds, and AAA bonds, and junk bonds. It also goes along with debentures, which is the unsecured long-term corporate loan. Corporations are liable to the holder of the debt security, requirements, periodic investment payments, which are tax deductible, and lastly, risk factors, which is the IRS and Securities Exchange Commission, also known as the SEC, may choose to treat loans made by shareholders as capital contributors. And the next chapter introduces the equity financing, and this is raising opportunity capital through the sale of stock, equity securities, or stock options. Shareholders have the right to control the corporation through voting, receive income through dividends, receive a share in the net assets in direct proportion to the number of shares they own upon dissolution of the corporation. Revise the Model Business Corporations Act, which is known as the RMBCA, and this requires the Articles of Incorporation to authorize one or more classes of stocks that entitle their owners to unlimited voting rights and then receive the assets of the corporation upon dissolution. And then next is the primary classes of stock. And this includes the common stock, preferred stock, and stock options. Common stock entitles the owner to vote for the corporate's board of directors, receive dividends, and participate in net assets upon liquidation. The preferred stock entitles its owner to special preferences relating to dividends or distributions of assets. And then next, the stock options is a non-tradable stock warrants issued to employees. Types of preferred stock include cumulative preferred, participating preferred, liquidation preferred, and convertible preferred. The chapter also includes capital structure and stock warrant. Capital structure is a percentage of each type of capital used by corporations, which is the board of directors have the power to affect the capital structure of the corporation, and stock warrant, which authorizes its holder to purchase a stated number of shares of stock at a stated price for a stated period of time. This may be freely traded, and employers may have received compensation in the form of stock options. Next is consideration, and this is something of value in return of which stocks and warrants are issued. Should not be less than the stated value of the shares, and par value goes along with this as well. And this is the nominal or face value of a stock or bond. It may be in the form of money, property, or past services, and promissory notes or agreements to provide future services. Next is the role of shareholders, and this is the votes that can be passed at the shareholders' meetings in person or a proxy. A proxy is a document that permits shareholders to transfer their rights to vote at a shareholder meeting to a second party. Any shareholder may engage in proxy solicitation, and costs are almost prohibited. And the next is the role of board directors. And this is authorize or approve payments of dividends, changes in financing, or other capital changes, selection, supervision, removal of officers, determination of executives' composition and pensions plans, adoption, revision, or repeal of corporate bylaws, and establishment of policy regulating products, services, and labor relations. Next is the role of officers and managers, and this is responsible for actual management of corporation affairs, agents of the corporation, and control of proxy election. And then next is a limited liability company, which is the LLC. And this is a hybrid corporation partnership, which is similar to the subchapter S corporation, but with fewer restrictions. The Uniform Limited Liability Company Act, which is known as ULLCA, covers the formation, operation, and terminations of LLCs. The characteristics of an LLC is a separate legal entity under state law that can sue, be sued, and enforce contracts. It's criminally and civilly liable for violations of law, and owners, which are members, are under a limited liability. Owners are personally liable for the debts of an LLC only if they agree to it in writing and if it states in the Articles of Incorporation. And then next is the steps involved in creating an LLC. This chooses a state where the LLC will conduct majority of its business, select a name according to the ULLCA, and an LLC may be formed by one or more persons delivering articles of organization to the secretary of the state. And then lastly for the chapter is the duration and financing of LLC. Duration is unlimited or at will unless specified otherwise, and financing can take the form of money or promissory notes, real, personal, tangible, or intangible property, and contracts for services and other agreements to contribute. So like I said, that's all I have for Chapter 17. I thought it was very interesting learning about 16 and 17, how they tie into one another, and about the various LLCs and how they're formed. So that's all I have. Thanks.